not continue.
Buongiorno signore e signori e benvenuti. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs et bienvenue. Guten Tag meine geehrten Damen und Herren und herzlich willkommen. Hüleymás uraim, jó reggelt kívánok, üdvözöljük. Buenas tardes señoras y señores, bienvenidos. Merhaba arkadaşlar, hoş geldiniz. Sejdatije, sejdaci, merhaban. Witajte, panie i panowie. Bine ați venit. I na najtežem jeziku s obzirom na broj pravopisa, poštovane dame i gospodo, dobrodošli na svečano otvaranje konferencije koja čini razliku. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the grand opening of the Channeling the Change conference live from Dubrovnik, Croatia. Please welcome your host, me. Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, in a few hours, dear friends of the most beautiful country in the world, as we say, welcome to a special conference in an uncertain period of time in which we all see what's happening around us with the wars going on in Europe, Middle East, Asia, Africa. We are here to bring some change, a little wind of change to make this year 2025 a year of hope, a year that will make a difference. Welcome to the most beautiful part of the world in the name of all of us, especially during the summer season. We hope that you will have a great time exchanging knowledges, supporting each other, so we can make a clear statement that this is the place where everything can change. Clap your hands for our first speaker. It's my great pleasure, with any further ado, to call in front of you the Speaker of the Croatian Parliament to join us for his opening and greeting speech. Mr. Jandjokovic, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Poštovane dame i gospodo, poštovana predsjednice Parlamenta Republike Slovenije, Državnog zbora, poštovani predsjedniče Parlamentarne skupštine Vijeća Europe, poštovani ministre Radman, domaćine ovog skupa, poštovani drugi ministri, drugi visoki dužnosnici, cijenjeni panelisti, dragi gosti i prijatelji Dubrovnik foruma. Sve vas srdačno pozdravljam u ime Hrvatskog sabora i u ime suorganizatora ove tradicionalne konferencije, Vlade Republike Hrvatske i Ministarstva vanjskih i europskih poslova. Ove godine pripala mi je osobita čast svečano otvoriti Dubrovnik forum. Ovo je 18. po redu Dubrovnik forum, dakle postali smo punoljetni. Skup je to koji se od svojih početaka davne 2006. godine, tada još pod imenom Croatia Summit, razvija kao mjesto susreta i otvorene razmjene mišljenja o ključnim geopolitičkim zbivanjima. Mogu reći kako smo u Dubrovniku navikli razgovarati i otvorenije nego li je to uobičajeno na međunarodnim skupovima. Takvo okruženje za raspravu nerijetko iznjedri i vrlo dragocjene uvide i ideje, drugačije od onih koje obično čujemo. I to je zasigurno dodatna vrijednost ovog foruma. Vjerujem da će to biti slučaj i ove godine, dok svi zajedno svjedočimo ubrzanim, višeslojnim i dalekosežnim globalnim previranjima i rastućoj nesigurnosti. Kroz sljedeća 2 dana imat ćemo prilike čuti vrijedne doprinose predsjednika parlamenata i vlada, predstavnika europskih i transatlantskih institucija. Pridružit će nam se nacionalni ministri, drugi državni dužnosnici, brojni stručnjaci iz različitih područja. Zajedno ćemo sagledati kako pridonijeti sigurnijem, predvidljivijem svijetu i poboljšanju međunarodne suradnje u potrazi za održivim rješenjima. Jer je svijet na prekretnici na kojoj je nemoguće isključiti čak i najpesimističnije scenarije. Zato se od donositelja odluka, osobito u ovakva zahtjevna vremena, traži jasno vodstvo, razborita prilagodba te promišljene i pravovremene reakcije. Uvijek s ciljem što učinkovitije zaštite naših građana i društava od svih ugroza. To je nužno želimo li biti aktivni dionici procesa koji se oko nas odvijaju. Inače riskiramo da ti procesi i promjene upravljaju nama, a ne obrnuto. Upravo je ta poruka sadržana u naslovu 18. Dubrovnik foruma koji nosi naziv Channeling the Change. Bilo da se radi o posljedicama oružanih konflikata ili nužnom ulaganju u vlastitu i zajedničku obranu. Bilo da je riječ o nuspojavama klimatskih promjena ili ubrzanog tehnološkog napretka. O učincima demografskih i migracijskih kretanja ili o poticanju lažnih vijesti i manipuliranja informacijama, izazova je na pretek. Zato svi mi koji se bavimo javnim poslom, politikom, moramo biti spremni ulagati sve potrebne napore kako bismo vlastite građane pripremili da izdrže rastuću složenost aktualnog globalnog trenutka. Poštovani sudionici i gosti foruma, tijekom naredna 2 dana u Dubrovniku će biti riječi i o sigurnosnim izazovima kojima zajedno svjedočimo, osobito ratu u Ukrajini, o budućnosti europskih obrambenih sposobnosti, o rastućoj neizvjesnosti u globalnim trgovinskim odnosima. Posebna pažnja na forumu bit će posvećena Mediteranu, budućnosti Afrike u kontekstu globalnog repozicioniranja, kao i odnosima Europe i Azije. Bit će govora i o inicijativi Triju mora, koja je krenula upravo iz Dubrovnika i koja dogodine puni 10 godina. Ujedno mogu ovom prigodom najaviti kako će Hrvatski sabor organizirati parlamentarni summit te inicijative i udahnuti svježi dah njenoj parlamentarnoj dimenziji. Razgovarat ćemo i o proširenju OECD-a, što za Hrvatsku ima osobitu važnost jer je članstvo u toj organizaciji naš sljedeći strateški cilj. Sagledat ćemo i vrijednosti na kojima se danas vodimo i koje živimo s obje strane Atlantika. Mir, sloboda, demokracija, vladavina prava, sloboda govora, poštivanje ljudskih prava u samim su temeljima naših društava. To smatram posebno važnom i zanimljivom temom i vrlo je intrigantan i naslov tog panela. SOS, Western Values in Distress. Sjećam se kako je u naslovu prvog izdanja ove konferencije još 2006. godine stajalo The Values that bind us, te vrijednosti koje nas povezuju jednako su važno i aktualno pitanje i danas. Nadalje, izuzetno bitnim smatram i predviđene rasprave o Zapadnom Balkanu i euroatlantskoj perspektivi jugoistoka i istoka Europe. I u tome se u Dubrovniku raspravlja još od 2006. godine kada je Hrvatska i sama bila u procesu pristupanja NATO-u i Europskoj uniji. Bez imalo sumnje, proširenje Europske unije pitanje je od geostrateške važnosti. Prosperitetno, demokratsko i stabilno susjedstvo koje dijeli iste europske vrijednosti za Hrvatsku je izuzetno bitno. Politički interes za proširenje trebao bi uvijek biti jednako snažan i u Briselu i u glavnim gradovima država članica kao i svim državama kandidatkinjama. Od njih će se pak uvijek očekivati iskrena predanost procesu i europskim vrijednostima, kao i ispunjavanju potrebnih kriterija. Iz hrvatske perspektive mogu reći da će naše snage i napori ostati usmjereni na pomoć, suradnju i osmišljavanje novih konkretnih koraka kojima možemo pridonijeti stabilizaciji područja jugoistočne Europe. Vjerujem da primjer Hrvatske koja je 12 godina članica Europske unije, 16 godina članica NATO-a, može i treba poslužiti kao potvrda transformacijske snage koju u sebi nosi perspektiva članstva. Uostalom, naš međunarodni položaj, geopolitička relevantnost, kao i stabilnost i otpornost našeg društva bitno su osnaženi u odnosu na razdoblje prije članstva u tim organizacijama. Dame i gospodo, posebno mi je drago što je jedan od panela na ovogodišnjem forumu posvećen obilježavanju 30. obljetnice Splitske deklaracije. Imaćemo iznimnu čast čuti i istaknute svjedoke tog vremena. Ta je deklaracija, podsjetit ću, bila jedna od ključnih koraka ka stvaranju pretpostavki za potpisivanje Dejtonskog sporazuma. Dakako, taj sporazum nije riješio sve izazove, ali je otvorio vrata boljoj i mirnijoj budućnosti. Hrvatska, u punini svjesna nezamjenjive uloge koju je tada imala u doprinosu miru u toj susjednoj zemlji, ostaje u potpunosti posvećena očuvanju Dejtonskog okvira i Bosni i Hercegovini kao državi triju jednakopravnih konstitutivnih naroda. Nastavit ćemo i dalje ulagati politički, gospodarski i diplomatski kapital u njenu stabilnost i napredak. A kada govorimo o diplomatskom kapitalu, treba naglasiti kako je grad u kojem smo se okupili njime oduvijek obilovao, jednako kao i prirodnim okruženjem i kulturnim nasljeđem vrijednim divljenja. Uspješno balansiranje trgovine i diplomacije kroz povijest je imalo presudnu ulogu u opstanku i napretku Dubrovnika, grada Republike, smještenog usred sfera utjecaja velikih sila, poput Osmanskog carstva, Venecije, Habsburške monarhije i Francuske. Dubrovačka gospodarska, ili možda bolje rečeno gosparska diplomacija, ostaje nam udžbenički primjer uspješnog vođenja vanjske i trgovinske politike. Upravo stoga Dubrovnik predstavlja tako prikladno mjesto za rasprave, susrete i otvorenu razmjenu mišljenja. Istovremeno, jasno je kako su rasprave koje ćemo imati kroz sljedeća 2 dana neodvojive od šire geopolitičke i geostrateške stvarnosti koja definira našu sigurnost, napredak i našu budućnost. Ta je stvarnost za brojne države i narode danas stvarnost sukoba. U 4. smo godini rata u Ukrajini i vjerujem da bismo svi htjeli mir, osim evidentno je Rusije koja u svojoj destrukciji nimalo ne posustaje. Mir koji je u svijetu i Ukrajini potreban mora biti pravedan i trajan, te uvažavati i ukrajinski teritorijalni integritet i suverenitet. Jesmo li uistinu svjesni dalekosežnosti posljedica mira koji nagrađuje agresora, svijeta u kojem prihvaćamo nezakonite aneksije i u kojem caruje pravo jačeg? Zapitajmo se, želimo li biti sugraditelji takvoga svijeta? Takav ishod ne može prihvatiti ni jedna zemlja koja drži do načela međunarodnog prava i poretka temeljenog na pravilima. A Hrvatska je bila i ostaje čvrsto privržena tim načelima. Zato je toliko važno ostati uz Ukrajinu u njenoj pravednoj borbi za slobodu. Financijski, humanitarno, kroz vojnu pomoć i kroz nesmanjenu političku potporu. Ujedno, želim podsjetiti da se bitan dio političke potpore Ukrajini odvija i na međuparlamentarnoj razini. Izuzetno veliki iskorak u tom smjeru napravili smo zajedničkom organizacijom prvog parlamentarnog samita Međunarodne krimske platforme, kojeg smo s Ukrajinskim parlamentom inaugurirali u Zagrebu u listopadu 2022. godine. Moj je tadašnji sudomaćin bio Ruslan Stefančuk, predsjednik Vrhovne Rade Ukrajine. Na njegov poziv prije 3 mjeseca sudjelovao sam i na parlamentarnom samitu u Ukrajinskoj Buči. Za predsjednika parlamenta Hrvatske, koja zna što znači biti žrtvom agresije, doći u taj grad bilo je zaista duboko dirljivo iskustvo. Kao i na mnogim međuparlamentarnim konferencijama gdje je posljednjih godina Ukrajina stalno u fokusu, u Buči je bila i naša današnja posebna gošća, predsjednica Državnog zbora Slovenije, Urška Klakočar-Zupančić. Nadam se da ćemo zajedno nazočiti i 4. samitu Krimske platforme koji će se ove jeseni održati u Stokholmu i tako nastaviti afirmirati globalnu parlamentarnu potporu Ukrajini. Vjerujem da će nam se tamo priključiti predsjednik Parlamentarne skupštine Vijeća Europe, gospodin Theodoros Rousopoulos, uvijek jasan i dosljedan u porukama potpore žrtvi ruske agresije i u protivljenju invazije na suverenu državu. Poštovana kolegice, poštovani kolega, hvala vam na dolasku. Radujem se vašim skorašnjim obraćanjima s ove govornice. Na kraju, poštovane dame i gospodo uzvanici, panelisti i gosti ovogodišnjeg Dubrovnik foruma, preostaje mi samo poželjeti vam uspješne rasprave danas i sutra. i da odavde odete bogatiji za nove spoznaje, a nadam se i s novom dozom entuzijazma i nadahnuća za sve izazove koje nam neizvjesna sutrašnjica evidentno nosi. Hvala vam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker of the Croatian Parliament, Gospodin Jandrokovic. As you've heard, you're in the city of a huge tradition built on diplomacy and freedom, libertas, the word that should unite us all and a value that we should all cherish. That's the reason why many would argue are really the parliaments those who should be on the forefront of safeguarding the democracy and other values we share. Are the parliaments those who should protect Vox Populi and everything which we learn throughout the history? That's the reason why you've heard a few important things that we will talk about today and tomorrow. That's the reason why we called a lot of friends and distinguished guests to join us to give their opinions and sights on what they expect of 2025. So, is the parliamentary power the future mobilizer of everything? We shall soon find out. It is my great pleasure in that vein to call our next speaker on the stage. Please clap your hands for the Slovenia's President of the National Assembly, Državnog zbora, Madame Urška Klekočar-Zupančič, to address us all. Dobrodošli. The floor is yours, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, dear Mr. Speaker. Dear Gordon, thank you for inviting me to this beautiful, beautiful historical city. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin again by expressing my sincere gratitude to the Speaker of the Croatian Parliament and my dear friend, Gordan Jandrokovic, for the kind invitation and the opportunity to address this year's Dubrovnik Forum. It is vital that parliaments remain active participants in international cooperation and that regional initiatives such as this forum include a strong parliamentary dimension. Parliamentary engagement enhances visibility and strengthens public understanding that foreign policy is not solely the domain of the executive branch. Rather, it reflects a broader democratic consensus. Parliaments bring pluralism, transparency, and democratic legitimacy to foreign policy processes. They have the unique potential to foster public trust and reinforce accountability in decisions that shape our country's roles on the global stage. Parliaments not only provide essential political support for government decisions, they also play a crucial role in guiding, scrutinizing, and when necessary, restraining the executive. They can set directions, raise critical questions, and prevent premature or ill-considered actions. Parliament is not merely a legislative body. It is a reflection of political diversity and a vital expression of societal pluralism. Its nature is not monolithic, quite the opposite. It institutionalizes the clash of ideas and interests, offering a structured, ongoing platform for open and orderly debate between competing political visions. It is precisely through its confrontation that Parliament performs its democratic corrective function, ensuring that opposition voices are not only heard, but embedded in the institutional framework through dedicated space and recognized mechanisms for action. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time when the geopolitical seismograph is in constant motion. Its tremors ever more frequent and alarming. This is why cooperation is more urgent than ever. If we are to halt the advance of authoritarian regimes, regimes that disregard the values of open, democratic, and multicultural societies, that trample on human rights, the rule of law, and even human life itself, we need a determined, united response from the entire democratic world. Such challenges cannot be met by governments alone, nor by parliaments alone, nor by civil society on its own. We will prevail only if we stand together. One recent example of meaningful parliamentary cooperation was this year's parliamentary summit in Bucha, held as a gesture of solidarity with Ukraine. On the 31st of March, I had the honor of attending the commemorative ceremony marking the 3rd anniversary of the city's liberation, a city where the bodies of 461 innocent civilians were found. That day, the silence spoke louder than any of the speakers. The massacre in Bucha, and in so many other places across Ukraine, is above all a profound human tragedy for those who lost their loved ones. But it is also a brutal, cold-blooded, and arrogant assault on the very values our societies have strived to uphold throughout history: the rule of law, human rights, and democracy. Tragically, today, on the 11th of July, we are also reminded of another horrific crime: the genocide in Srebrenica. As you know, this day marks the 30th anniversary of that atrocity. It stands as a lasting symbol of unspeakable cruelty, but also a stark warning of the dangers of denial, inaction, and the failure to protect civilian lives. These events will forever remain dark stains on the history of modern Europe. They represent the failure of humanity in the face of ideologies driven by destruction and greed, an ultimate expression of human arrogance, in which some presume the right to decide over life and death. They remind us, with painful clarity, of the need to safeguard the fundamental values of civilization, values that are most at risk in times of war, conflict, or rising intolerance. At the Bucha summit, the speakers of parliament adopted a joint statement unequivocally condemning Russian aggression. The declaration reaffirmed full respect for Ukraine's sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity with its internationally recognized borders. It also called for the establishment of a special tribunal to address the crime of aggression against Ukraine. Subsequently, on the 25th of June this year, an agreement was signed in Strasbourg between Ukraine and the Council of Europe to establish such a tribunal. The court, based in The Hague, will have the mandate to investigate, prosecute, and try Russia's political and military leadership for launching the war of aggression against Ukraine in February 2022. Was this historic step the direct result of the parliamentary declaration adopted in Bucha? Certainly not on its own, but it was undeniably part of a broader international effort, an effort in which parliaments provided vital political support and moral clarity. It is also incumbent upon us to act with an equal determination to protect the rights and lives of Palestinians, just as we are doing in the case of Ukraine, lest be we justly accused of applying double standards. It is also incumbent upon us, as I said, to do this. When we speak of Russia's military aggression against Ukraine, we cannot ignore its impact on the European Union's enlargement policy. After a long period of so-called enlargement fatigue, it has become evident that Europe's security cannot rest on strategies that lack the means for effective implementation. In response, the EU has accelerated accession procedures for Ukraine and Moldova, while also, at least in part, revitalizing the accession process for the countries of the Western Balkans. As I have emphasized on many occasions, Slovenia's position on EU enlargement is unequivocal. We are strong and vocal advocates of enlargement, both towards the Western Balkans and the Eastern Partnership countries. On this issue, there is no division between the coalition and the opposition in the National Assembly. Slovenia, along with the National Assembly, will continue to support candidate countries on the European path and work actively to accelerate the implementation of reforms necessary for EU members. At the same time, we expect candidate countries to demonstrate clear political will and make every effort to advance effectively toward EU accession. Despite some positive momentum in recent months, the fact remains that the EU enlargement process is still moving too slowly. At the same time, the situation in the Western Balkans remains highly fragile, with a real risk of escalating instability. These warning signs reinforce the urgency of political cooperation and the importance of multilateral engagement. Even those who remain skeptical of enlargement must now recognize that the process is not only necessary, but also the most effective way to counter the influence of third actors and to pursue one of our shared strategic objectives, strengthening the European Union as a credible and capable global actor. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I would like to return to the role of parliaments, specifically in the EU enlargement process. I firmly believe that parliaments, as guardians of democratic accountability, are key enablers of further integration. They also play a crucial role in strengthening public support for the European project. By fostering public debate, parliaments help deepen understanding and build the consensus needed to shape the future of the Union. A union that does not merely follow, but one rather leads with confidence. A union that acts as a driving force for a fairer, more resilient, inclusive, and sustainable future. Enlargement is, of course, in the interest of candidate and potential candidate countries, but it is equally in the strategic interest of the European Union itself. I therefore welcome the growing recognition that in order to act more swiftly and effectively, the EU must reduce the number of decisions that require unanimity. Let us be clear, enlargement is not an act of charity, it is a geopolitical imperative. It is an investment in peace and in our shared security. Real efforts must therefore focus on helping candidate countries meet the necessary criteria as soon as possible, rather than introducing additional conditions on interim benchmarks that risk delaying progress. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a time when change is happening at extraordinary pace, transforming the way we work, communicate, and govern. The European Union is increasingly recognizing digital transformation as one of its strategic pillars, an approach that is now directly reflected in the enlargement negotiations and in the expectations placed on candidate countries. Allow me then to conclude my remarks by briefly addressing this vital dimension. Digital transformation is not only a strategic objective of the EU, it is now an integral component of the enlargement process itself. Candidate countries must be prepared to join the digital single market, which entails aligning with European standards in areas such as electronic services, data protection, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. Without successful digital transformation, there can be no effective governance, no sustainable economic competitiveness, and no equal participation in the common European space. At the same time, we must acknowledge that digitalization, artificial intelligence, and digital media, while offering many benefits, also pose serious risks. They have the potential to deepen social inequalities, entrench discrimination, and lead to violations of fundamental rights. Algorithms can reinforce existing prejudices by relying on biased data. They can also create information bubbles that limit exposure to diverse viewpoints, degrade the quality of public discourse, and ultimately undermine democratic processes. Unequal access to digital tools deepens the digital divide, excluding vulnerable groups from full and equal participation in society. At the same time, the widespread collection of personal data poses serious risks to privacy, freedom of expression, and individual autonomy. This is why legal and ethical regulation of the digital space is not optional, it is essential. Without appropriate systemic and normative safeguards, we risk a growing imbalance between technological advancement and democratic oversight, with far-reaching consequences for social cohesion and power dynamics. In this context, it is worth recalling that in June 2024, the European Union adopted the Artificial Intelligence Act, the world's first comprehensive legal framework to regulate this domain. Yet even with this milestone, one must ask, were we fast enough in addressing the real emerging threats, from the erosion of privacy to rising discrimination and the spread of disinformation? Today, there may still be more questions than answers, but what matters most is that parliaments demonstrate the determination and political will to adopt legislation that genuinely protects people's rights and upholds the public interest, even in the face of pressure from powerful global actors and tech giants. Only with such clarity of vision and responsible action can we ensure that the digital age becomes an opportunity for all, not just for a privileged few, and that our democracies remain strong, inclusive, and resilient. This is the speech that was prepared, and now I'll give you my personal speech. Tell me, my dear friends, where in our way, building the society, have we lost our sense of being human? Today, in this world, we are faced with atrocities, horrors. We are faced with actions that can be labeled genocide. Where in this pursuit of having more and more and more, have we lost our empathy? Why are we watching every night in the news starving children, bodies torn apart, death? And we do what? We prepare speeches. We talk about our values. Are we implementing those values? What is going on? What is going on with this world? Why are we kneeling before powerful countries? Powerful countries that want to be the rulers of this world. European Union was a dream of nations, of countries, different nations, different ethnic groups, different religions. It was a dream, and it has become a reality. Where is this common voice of the European people when it comes to atrocities around the world, whether it be in the vicinity of Europe or maybe a little bit farther away? Why are we silent? Why are we just watching? Or maybe we utter a word or two, but we don't do anything. We don't do anything. Because we have to be honest. Now I'm here in front of you and asking you, don't be silent and don't do nothing. Saving one human life it's worth it. It is worth it. Whether it be from the Israeli side, Palestinian side, Ukrainian side, even Russian side. This is the world that I dream of, and this is why I became a parliamentarian. Because I don't want to stay silent. I don't want to watch children, our future, being destroyed every evening in the news and do nothing. European Union, wake up. It's a time for you to wake up and start living the values, start implementing the values that you so strongly stand on. Democracy, human rights, the rule of law, the protection of humanity. Are we really so driven by capital that we do not see what is happening in front of our eyes? The capital is not our future. The children are our future. They will live when we are long gone. The history is not merciful. It will judge us sooner or later. I do hope that humanity will win. I do hope that the European Union will stand on its feet and really start doing what it has been saying for so many years. Humanity over everything. For me, this is the right path. And I have many more colleagues in the National Assembly that think as I do. And that is why I think the parliaments should stand up and should start creating foreign policy. Because people, we represent the people in our countries. And the people are good in their hearts. Most of them, they are good. So why not implement the goodness that we have? When you go home, don't be silent. Do something. Start speaking for humanity. I'm often described as being too idealistic, but I will stay idealistic because someone has to be, for the right values. I don't care about all the capital, all the material goods in this world. I don't care about them. I don't want to be in the Oval Office. I don't want to be the ruler of the world. But I want to live in a world where my children will have the future, where they will be free and safe at the same time. Please excuse me for my words. I hope I have not offended anyone. I wish you a nice stay here in Dubrovnik, a historical city, a free city and a safe city. And I hope that next time we see each other, if we see each other, it will be maybe in a little bit better world. Because today, the times are not so nice, but we can change them. We can. And it starts with one single step. Every one of us can do it. For humanity, dear friends. Humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Šešelj, strong speech for this continuation of the Dubrovnik Forum. That's how you do it. Dear friends, dear ladies and gentlemen, we are not yet over. We will talk about this because we have a panel about future leaders, young generation, my two boys who will be probably big shots in a few years' time, and talking about, my dad tried to change something, which is always nice to remember after being in such a nice audience and in front of all of you. The next speaker is coming to us to share his knowledge and insights as the President of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Mr. President, Kallisorissima, welcome, dobrodošli, file, Theodoros Rossopoulos, it's your time now to shine.
I was about to tell you that you need to make some practice in your Greek because you forgot to say kalimera. So, good morning. But you did well, you did well. You did excellent. Honorable hosts, dear participants, yesterday, upon my arrival to this beautiful place, I sat down at my desk to write my speech. Allow me first to say a few words on what my dear Urška just said. Urška said that we only make speeches, but then she added something that I fully agree. according to the Bible, enarchie in logos. The first is the speech. You have to speak. You have to talk. You have to talk loud. Because the most favored sound, dear friends, of dictators and of authoritarians is silence. So to speak is very important. So those of you who had the opportunity yesterday to walk around Dubrovnik, you may have noticed that there is a sign at the enter of the old city, Libertas. The speaker already said about Libertas. Liberty, dear friends, is a principle. Liberty is a promise, and at time, it's a battle. Dubrovnik, or Ragusa, as it was once known, thrived not by power or conquest, but through diplomacy. The Speaker of the Croatian Parliament has already mentioned that. The Republic preserved its freedom for centuries through wise negotiation with the most powerful empires of the time. We can call it an early practitioner of what we now call parliamentary diplomacy. It is that same spirit of speaking rather silencing, of laws rather than violence, that animates today the work of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, whose presidency I'm honored to hold. 2 weeks ago in Strasbourg, Urška has already said that, the Council of Europe took a historic step. We signed the agreement to establish a special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, a long-standing initiative of the Assembly of the Council of Europe. This is not merely a legal mechanism, it is a message. Aggression must have consequences. Impunity cannot stand. Justice is not optional, and the law must speak louder than bombs. But justice, dear friends, is not only achieved in tribunals. It begins in the parliaments. Parliamentary diplomacy, when genuine, can lower tension before conflict escalates. It can expose foreign interference before it distorts a democracy. It can defend the rule of law not only after it has been violated, but before it is even threatened. That is why we have launched an alliance for free and fair elections and are refining early warning systems to detect democratic backsliding and foreign interference. This work is especially vital for the Western Balkans. Foreign interference, hostile, manipulative, often invisible, is a grave threat. It divides, it destabilizes, it shows mistrust. To achieve unity, we must try hard. I come from the Balkans. I'm a Greek. And I know that history is a heavy burden on our shoulders. Urška reminded us today that it is 30 years since the Srebrenica cruel events. What happened in former Yugoslavia, I had I don't know if it is an opportunity. I was witnessing as a journalist. I was a war correspondent. So I have been in many cases, in Sarajevo, in Pale, in other places. And I know firsthand as a man who's coming from the Balkans, that this heavy burden on our shoulders is still here. It exists. But when we are asked by our successor the question that our coordinator said, what is he going to tell to his children, or what we have done, then the answer should be that at least we tried to find solutions. We tried to establish democracy everywhere, to support media freedom, civic education, and a society that knows how democracy works and why it matters. In that vein, we offer unwavering solidarity to those in this region and beyond who continue to believe in the European project, not just as an idea, but as a living system of values. Dubrovnik, dear participants, give us one more example from its past. The greatest military asset was not its navy, but its negotiators. This wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. It allowed the small republic to survive for centuries among empires, becoming one of the most prosperous and free cities of its era. But I don't want to be misunderstood. History also shows that neutrality is not always enough. Faced with aggression, it can become complicity. If no one stands up, who will defend the powerless? Today we must pair Dubrovnik's diplomatic legacy with Europe's moral courage, because true peace is impossible without justice. Yes, I know there are problems in Europe, either in the European Union or in the Council of Europe. Sometimes bureaucracy prevails. Yes, I know that, but what is the alternative? I spoke about peace. Peace is not only the absence of war, but also a state in which citizens feel safe from visible and, above all, invisible threats. And one invisible threat today has to do with the amazing but also dangerous tool of artificial intelligence. Amid global conflicts, the misuse of artificial intelligence can be one of the most disruptive forces of our time. Since 2020, our Assembly, the Assembly of the Council of Europe, has examined its impact on democracy, justice, and human rights, endorsing core ethical principles and supporting the Framework Convention on AI, opened for signature last year in Vilnius. Already, European Union, a lot of countries, even USA, Canada, and others have signed, have ratified, have agreed to this agreement. But regulation alone is not enough. We must strengthen democratic resilience, especially where AI influences elections, public debate, or security, and ensure that private tech actors are held to democratic standards. Today, as we face war in Europe, technological disruption, democratic fatigue, and foreign manipulation, the lesson from this ancient city that is hosting us today still holds. Freedom must be defended not only with strength, but with wisdom, not only with courage, but with cooperation, and not only by governments, but by parliaments and citizens alike. I'm not claiming that all our member states, as I said earlier in the Council of Europe, strictly adhere to their democratic obligation toward their citizens, but we are 46 countries together on a platform of consultation and mutual control. It is important to try, as I said earlier, and we must do so continuously because, dear friends, the struggle for democracy is never ending. I end my speeches by saying always, democracy may be old, but not old-fashioned. Let's work for this. Thank you.
Evharisto, Mr. President. Nice to have you. A short speech that leads us to something which is always nice to cherish, networking time. I started this day by greeting you in many languages. I know a little bit more, maybe we can use it later, but that's not important. The smile on your face told me that that can make a difference. Words can be spoken, but if not listened, they are invaluable. So, to start your well-being in Croatia, you need to learn 3 words as the start of every good conversation. First one is molim. Can you repeat after me? Molim. That means please, or can I get something? Molim something. When you get something, you show gratitude with another Croatian word, which is hvala. A little bit hard because it's H and V together, but if you say fala, it's still acceptable, like in Portuguese, okay? And the most important words we all cherish in every language in the world, it's sorry. Because we need to say sorry if we did not do something good, and that is oprosti. You will forget each and every one, because if you don't meet a Croatian to carry on speaking with you in Croatian, it will be much harder. That's the reason why our dear organizers always say we have to have enough time for networking and exchanging not only glances, but experiences. That time is now, because this conference has it all to success. You know what? One break, second break, lunch break, and every break needed to expand. You each other talking and sharing your experiences from your parliaments. It will be a pleasure to stay with you this whole day. My name is Fran Oridian, and I'm the moderator of each and every conference you need just a few flights away. So call me if you need me. Now your break time is now. See you at 12:15. Back to see what young leaders have to share. Enjoy. Uživajte.